said when he went to Fatima in 2010, the message of Fatima is not exhausted, as people have said. He contradicted himself from his statement in that document on the third secret, where they say the third secret is about the assassination attempt of John Paul II, so it's now a matter of the past. No, he says, the message of Fatima is of great meaning and relevance for our time. And he says, he also awaits and hopes that by the centenary of the apparition in Fatima, which is 2017, there will be this great triumph of the Immaculate Heart. In other words, the whole meaning of Fatima, the center of the meaning of Fatima, is the triumph of the Immaculate Heart. And that's why this is a kind of an inspired event that we will have. And if we don't try to make this a really major event, ganon namamatay na rin ang pananampalataya dito sa atin. No? So everyone, those of you, the one or two who will not work for this, mahiya sana kayo. You should feel guilty if you don't do everything in your power to make this event of June the 8th a really massive event of faith in this year of faith. That's the first one. Okay. Now, Father Vic Jesus read the section from the pastoral message announcing this, no? Asking every bishop and every parish priest and every parish and every institution and every family to join in this act of consecration. So I received a text from a Madre Carmelite sister. I will not tell you what diocese. Sabi niya, send me the materials because our bishop never does anything about these things. Sinasabi raw, that's an act of CBCP, it's not concern me. No? So, if the bishop doesn't act and the parish priest don't act, let the laity act. Let the religious and the laity act. Hiyain mo sila. No? Let it be something that comes really from our heart. So, now, so the framework of this consecration, which is the Year of Faith, October 2013 to November 14, it's perfect, no? Because we make the national simultaneous act of consecration to the Immaculate Heart on June the 8th, which is the second Friday, the second Saturday now. And Our Lady asked Lucia for 5 first Saturdays. So this common consecration is second Saturday now of June. So June doesn't count among the 5 first Saturdays. So it will be July, August, September, October, November. Maybe the bishops will have a second great day in the first Saturday of November to close this 5 months, 6 months of consecration to the Immaculate Heart. All right. Now, just to say briefly, what do the bishops say that we must do? In the pastoral exhortation, they tell us that first, we have this great day of June the 8th, and then after that, it will be the Mass, and also that includes the Mass and Communion of Reparation on the first Saturday of each month. So July, August, September, October, November. First Saturday. And prayer and penance in our daily lives. No? That's the great message of Fatima, and Pope Benedict kept saying. That's the center of what we are to do according to Fatima. Prayer and penance in our daily lives. So we offer our daily lives through prayer and penance, no? In union with the Immaculate Heart of Mary. As much as possible, the daily recitation of the Rosary. Because Our Lady asked for this daily recitation of the Rosary, if at all possible, and she told Lucia of Fatima, which Lucia again repeated over and over again. She says there is absolutely nothing that the prayer of the Rosary cannot obtain. Maniwala kayo o hindi. to see of Fatima kept saying this over and over again because Our Lady told it to her. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, that the prayer of the Rosary, which is offered with great devotion, cannot obtain. You notice in that EWTN interview, Pope Francis says, we must pray. And he says, prayer is adoration, first of all, no. But he says, no, I'm not excluding petition. He says the Catholic must be a beggar. We constantly beg things from God, and it's good when we beg things. Itong mga high theologians saying, no, don't ask for things, no, because that's, prayer is too high. No, he says, no. He says, el católico debe ser un mendicante. We must constantly beg for things because it shows that we depend completely on the Lord, no? So don't be afraid to ask, no? Don't be afraid to ask for little things. In the Family Rosary Crusade of Father Peyton, there was a story that they ran over and over again, where a man was looking for a wife. Tumatanda na siya. And the woman was looking for a husband. Tumatanda na siya. And one day they were going up the stairs, they ran into each other, and the woman fell. And the two of them became. Hiningi nila ito sa Diyos. What a small favor for God to waste time on. And they've been married when they were shown on television for about 30 years now. Very, very happy. So the Pope says, don't be afraid to ask. Don't think that that's small. No? The great theologians say, don't lower prayer by asking. And sabi niya, no, be a beggar. Show God that you really depend on Him. But adore. Adore. That's important. We have to show God. We have to let the greatness of God enter into us. No? Okay. So, that's what the bishops ask us to do. And then there are specific pastoral activities and programs that are also being recommended to us. Now, this painting was made by Father Armantangi, the Paulinian father, here in Makati. And in Europe, in many of the countries in Europe, this is what they call the Schutzmantel Madonna. Our Lady with a mantle of protection is present in their churches, paintings in their houses, and so on. Here in the Philippines, it's not so well known, no? So this is one of the first efforts to make a Filipino Schutzmantel Madonna. It's Our Lady dressed in Filipino garments, no? She's holding the little child in her arms. Most of the European Schutzmantel Madonnas do not have the child. But here, the child Jesus is there holding the rosary, showing it to be made. And Our Lady's Immaculate Heart is very visible, and the Sacred Heart of Jesus is very visible. And there are representatives of the laity, of the religious, of the indigenous peoples, of all kinds of society under the mantle of the Blessed Virgin. In the document of Aparecida, that's the name of the document of the Latin American bishops in the year 2007. Aparecida is a town in Brazil, no? Which has probably the biggest Catholic church in the world. 45,000 people can enter into the church in Aparecida. And Benedict XVI held there the meeting of the Latin American bishops. In the document of Aparecida, it's a very strong affirmation that it is the Blessed Mother who brings the gift of communion of her Son and becomes a force of unity for the people. You know, before the EDSA revolution, there were all kinds of groups trying to make a united front against the dictatorship. When it finally happened, it was the Blessed Mother who did it. She was the one who gathered the forces of peace for a peaceful overthrow of the dictatorship. So even in social and political events, the Blessed Mother can enter in if it is part of the good of humanity, the good of a people, and the future work of the Church. So Father Armantangi's Schutzmantel Madonna is that painting there. And we hope that people will understand what it means. They may not like the painting or they may like it, but the idea that Our Lady is the one who gathers our people together. That's what the Aparecida document says. In all the countries of Latin America, without exception, it is the Blessed Mother who has gathered the people together and brought them to her Son. If she does that with this act of consecration, if somehow we can gather together, work together, including the government, no? Including the Catholics in the government, work together so that we can be more and more one people. What can we not do if we work together? Ang problema sa Filipino, siyempre ganun naghihiwalay tayo agad. I always tell the story. There was an SVD priest who had gotten sick in the Philippines and he was going back to Europe, but he's assigned to the United States to recover his health. He spent about 4 months first in Bangkok before he went to the States. And since he came from the Philippines, he gathered the Filipinos and formed a Catholic group. Then he went to Bangkok, to Washington, D.C., and then went back to Germany. And he came back 4 years later, coming back to the Philippines. The group that he had founded 4 years ago was now 5 groups. Because every Filipino group, there is one leader who wants to be boss. Becomes the datu. So it breaks up into, and this is what you're asking, no? That we become one people. That instead of fighting one another, instead of the church fighting the government fighting the church, let's find ways of working together for the good of our people and for the glory of God. So that's the point here. So in the purpose, what is the purpose of this common consecration? It's on the page 11 of the booklet. It's a reaffirmation that the Philippines is Pueblo Amante de Maria. Pope John Paul said that when he was here. Christianity is a phenomenon, and one of the marks of that phenomenon is that it's a people gathered around the Blessed Mother. And our catechism, the Catechism for Filipino Catholics, says that it is the distinguishing mark of the Catholic faith in the Philippines, our devotion to the Blessed Mother. And it says in a part on the priest, in PCP 2, that those priests who do not promote devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary in the Philippines are not really for the Philippines. Umuwi na sila. Because it is one of the distinctive marks of Filipino Catholicism, but something that comes from the heart. In the document of Aparecida, they say now, about popular piety, we must deepen. And they say, no, it's very deep. This is a very intellectual attitude. It's not deep, mababaw. What is necessary is that it becomes lined up with the doctrine of the gospel. No? It's not a lack of depth. It's a lack of more direct contact with the scriptures, the spirituality of the scriptures, and the spirituality of the Eucharist. Okay. So, that's a reaffirmation of the Pueblo Amante de Maria by our present generation. Every generation learns everything anew. Somebody as old as me, 2 years before becoming 90, I know that the one generation after the other, everybody forgets everything that came before. The second generation doesn't know what the first generation says. The older people, ay naku, pagod na kami dyan. Ano yun? Hindi pa namin naririnig yun. So every generation has to be taught anew. We have to make the meaning of the important things in our faith and in our life, make them new for each new generation. We forget that, no? So this act of consecration is to make the present generation, and we hope the future generation, something very important. This young priest of ours just came back from Canada, and he found himself one evening with a group of young people. They started asking him about the faith, the most Elementary things. What is the Mass? What is that? These are children of Catholic families. They had never heard about it. So he says, ganun pala. And then, after he spoke, this is a young Filipino priest. They said, Father, can we meet you again? We have never heard these things. And ang ginagawa ng mga pare, nagbabasa ng malalaking libro. So, and then as Archbishop Villegas, in that document signed by Archbishop Cebu, Palma, Live Christ, Share Christ, we have to make this the effort of the new evangelization, to share Christ. No? And as we said at the beginning, Pope Francis said to Cardinal Tagle, we look upon the Philippines as a nation of hope for the future of the Church. So it is a mission he gave to us, he said, the deepening and intensification of our Christian faith through our unique love and devotion to the Blessed Mother, and our renewed operative preferential love and concern for the poor. A love for Jesus and the Blessed Mother which does not show itself in a preferential love for the poor is not the real love. The love for the Blessed Mother and the love for our Lord must pour itself out, first of all, for the poor. The materially poor, the spiritually poor, and so on. But that is one thing of the Christian faith. The love of God and the love of neighbor are joined together. And that's what the Pope said to Cardinal Tagle. Now, let's do a little bit of theology, because that's why I was imported here for. And so, first, the consecration to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Let